everyone. This is Jay from Revolution Radio. So by far, the most questions I've had last 48 hours has been about Trump, Syria, and the Kurds in Turkey. Um, it's a real weird situation because at first I had a lot of my progressive friends say, well, I'm all for him, for Trump pulling troops out of Syria. So that's good. We need to be out of Syria. And I think it took them a little bit of time to realize, oh, but he's directly putting our allies in harm's way. And that can be really difficult because if we do pull completely out like we want to, there are going to be allies that are now in danger. Um, but it goes a little bit deeper than that. And that's why it did take more than a day to kind of do some research on this before I went forward. So, for any of you who don't know what I'm talking about, um, Donald Trump announced on Sunday night that he was going to be pulling our troops back from Syria and he was going to hand the reins over to Turkey. And this led to a lot of backlash. And people on his side, Lindsey Graham, I mean, he got very heated. He was very upset. It's the most I've heard Lindsey Graham actually um, stand up for his own beliefs or morals or, well, we all know what it is. It's the money. It's the machine. But he was affecting that, so he got mad. And he called it irresponsible and said that if he had saw this comment by a president and there was no name attached, he would have thought it was Obama. You know, big, little uppercut from Lindsey Graham to Donald Trump. And at this point, I didn't really understand too much about why and what was going on. To better understand Syria a little bit more, Syria is a gigantic pit of war right now. So it started off as Assad, Syria, versus the rebels. Then, around that time, as they were fighting, Saudi Arabia was the first one to put money into the rebels, bringing forth extremists and some terrorists to also fight Assad. Saudi Arabia obviously using this as a proxy war. Assad then decided to go with that narrative, and he actually released terrorists from prison and even funded some terrorists to join his opposing army. You might be thinking, why would he do that? Well, he did that so that big other countries would not join the rebels' cause. It was actually a really smart move if it worked, but it didn't. Um, and basically, around that time, after that happened, that's when America joined into the war on behalf of the rebels. Again, this is a proxy war, and we started funneling money in. Iran also answered and backed Assad, uh, mostly with money, some troops, and Saudi Arabia kicked it up and added even more money and backed more extremists. Um, Hezbollah joined under the Assad brand, and Turkey as well, kind of. And Russia, by the way, Russia got in as well. Of course, they're going to get in. And once this whole thing was like kind of full force going on, the Kurds, who were actually part of Syria, they detached themselves and they opposed him. But they did not line themselves up with the other rebels or extremists or ISIS, who was also a big part around 2014, 2015. The Kurds separated themselves from that. So the interesting thing is now you have this whole, I guess if you would like, March Madness style bracket of militias and military groups, and they all want to attack each other in different crisscrossing manners. For instance, um, Iran, they are specifically just doing this so Saudi Arabia can't take a foothold. I don't think Iran much cared. I mean, it is their neighbors, and Assad probably holds things down a little bit, but ultimately they just don't want Saudi Arabia to have more control or more power. Um, Turkey, Turkey joined because they don't like the Kurds. That's their whole thing. They don't really care about what side they are, and they are part of NATO, so they can't exactly be technically for Assad, but they just basically start attacking the Kurds in the area. Um, Saudi Arabia, obviously, they want more control over the land. America, it's hard to say exactly what America wants, but I'm guessing it has to do with that sweet, sweet oil. And so this becomes a cluster of who attacked who, who's going after what. Some groups are just going specifically, like America, for instance. They were just going after ISIS and Hezbollah and the extremists, not the rebels, who are different in this situation. The rebels typically are going after anyone who stood in their way. Again, Turkey, in a weird scenario, is kind of attacking. They did make attacks at the Kurds. Obama administration calmed them down. They're still kind of fighting Assad, kind of, but only attacking sections of the Kurds. So that's the mess that we're in. And somehow Obama kept it together. And I mean this because the whole thing about Trump pulling out on Sunday night, it wasn't just an idea he had. He's kind of dealing with some other stuff. It was basically that Turkey was going to attack. They were going to attack the Kurds. And instead of us sitting with our ally, Trump said, nah, it's fine. He gave him the green light. Go ahead, attack them. I don't really think, if you ask me, I don't really think Trump understood the Kurds were our ally. And one of our biggest allies for the last 15 to 17 years. I really don't think he got that. I think he just thought they were another group in Syria, and he's washing his hands of it. I mean, because it's either that, or the Turkish military intimidated him to the point where he would back down. I don't know if Trump's really the kind of guy that backs down. But do some talking and negotiating. He now says he will restrain Turkey. And that's how we know, by the way, that Turkey planned the attack and that Trump was fine with letting it happen. In fact, saying, here, we cleared a path, you go. The only reason why we know that is because he said he had restrained them, which means he had to stop them now. As where before, he claimed ignorance and said, oh, I didn't really give him a green light to go after the Kurds. I don't really know what's going on, essentially. They're taking our spot was kind of his mentality, but that's not what happened. And that's not at all what was said or what was indicated in any of this information that we found. And you might be saying, but do we really care? And yes, of course we care. We have really one strong ally in the Middle East. And I know you're thinking it's Israel. It's not Israel. It caused a lot more problems for us. I'm not saying we should do anything militarily against them, but we need to stop backing them as much as we do when they don't help. They don't really help us very much. But the Kurds are the ones who fought with us. We shouldn't just leave them to die. And it becomes a very mixed bag of things when you're a progressive and you're against all of this and you just don't want America to be involved in any of it. Pull back. Whatever happens is not going to affect us in any way. It's not going to take our freedom. It's not going to. In fact, our interventions are what cause more terrorism. Without a doubt. But now we've kind of built a friendship, and we've got guys and women who have died for us and fighting next to us. Progressive or not, I can't in good conscience be like we should just leave them to die. It makes me wonder what is going on with the Trump administration. It was announced today that there was someone from his staff who had heard in on a conversation that he had with President Zelensky of Ukraine. And he was supposed to testify. And Trump completely blocked it. Said, no, it's not going to happen. But he tweets like a madman and hides behind Twitter, but won't face the Turkish military. He won't face Nancy Pelosi. What happened to this bully? This man who could just swing his, giant persona around a room and get his way. I mean, that's what he was voted on. He's not like the rest of them. He says what he thinks. He's just being beat up, completely kicked around anymore. He has absolutely no offense. He's just like in a turtle shell, being punted around a room and not taking a stand for himself. I'm not saying he didn't cause it. And I'm not saying it's not kind of funny if it was just him. But all the lives he's affecting, especially with our military and our allies. Now, I don't know. I'm not going to get across to anyone who's a Trump supporter on this one. But you have to think, why was Obama able to handle our allies together? And this guy can't. Seems kind of weird. Obama did quite a bit better job with diplomacy than Trump's been able to. Is it because Trump's lazy and just didn't want to have that conversation with Turkey? And say, you can't go after our allies, dude. Chill out. Is it because he's scared? Is he scared of the Turkish military? That seems kind of weird. And that kind of relates to what's happening with this whistleblower. Why isn't he fighting? Is he scared of Nancy Pelosi? He's not too lazy to release stuff, is he? I mean, that's his... Everything he releases, if he's telling the truth, is just going to prove that he's right. I have to agree with a few people who've already said that he should release the audio. If he is so strong that he's completely innocent, maybe he should just release the audio and testify. He needs to testify. Instead of just hiding behind his phone inside of the White House or on a golf course, he needs to stand down who he believes are enemies and confront them. Turkey, Nancy Pelosi. I mean, unless he's not that guy that we thought he was. Unless he's not that guy that won him the election. I mean, that would be really interesting to think that old Obama is able to handle situations better than Trump. I mean, that wouldn't fly with a certain group of people. But that's what's happening. Especially with our military. I don't know. I think that's what Trump has to do, though. If he doesn't, everyone's going to call him weak. He's a coward. He can't handle his own business. He just has to hide behind his phone like he's a teenage girl. He's got to step up. Anyway, that's just my thought on it all. I'm curious to hear what you guys think. And you can leave it in the comments section on YouTube. It is Community of Ideas. Facebook, JDylan, JAYDYLAN, Twitter, JC Show VIP, and Google Podcasts, Spotify, iTunes, and Anchor. It's Revolution Radio. Or search up the producer, Zach Dillon, ZAKKDILLON. Anyway, thanks for that, guys. Let me know what you think about the situation in Syria. And here's the other one I just want to throw out too. He just may have been completely clueless. And I kind of almost default to that. I don't know. Either he's a coward or he's stupid. I'm not sure which one it is. And I know there's certain people on the other side who are saying, well, can it be both? Yeah, it definitely can be. But I'm curious to see what you guys think. Anyway, thanks a lot, guys. Have a great evening.